people having this idea of like, oh, he's this young party guy. He must party all the time. I was like, just so you know, before all that, before Idol, I worked 5 days a week in a factory or mowing lawns or whatever. Then on the weekends, Thursday to Sunday, I would sing in a band. So there was not a lot of partying for me at all. I missed out on so many 18th and 21st and birthdays because I was a guy who always worked. So when I got to Sydney, I went from singing 30 songs a night, getting on a plane to Sydney for the very first time. I'd never been on a plane before I did Idol.
Really?
Yeah, everything was very new to me. And then I only had to sing one song a week or half a song. Really, it's like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And then if there was a chance to go partying, I was like, I'm gonna party.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Today's chat is unique, fun, and exciting. Rob is emotionally aware and intelligent. He's gone through an incredible journey of self-exploration, wisdom, and courage. What's also surprised me is how good of a listener he is. He makes you feel seen and heard, and I was simply taken aback by how easy and flowing this chat was. Also, it's pretty wild to hear about Rob's journey from becoming extremely famous and well-known in Australia at a young age to a powerful decision he made to bring more autonomy in his life, which we dive into. It's rare, it's great, and it will blow your mind. Anyway, let's get into it. Rob Mills is a born entertainer. He's a singer, songwriter, presenter, actor, MC, author, and media personality. He's built an impressive career across screen and stage for nearly 20 years, and in more recent times, he has developed into an accomplished presenter and subsequently an author. Rob first came to the nation's attention in 2003 as a finalist on the first series of Australian Idol. Subsequently, he spent 3 years as Erinsborough's villain and series regular in Neighbours, where he played the ever-troubled Finn Kelly. He's currently performing the role of William Shakespeare in the brand new smash hit musical and Juliet at the Regent Theatre in Melbourne. Last year saw Rob playing the role of Corny Collins in the Melbourne season of the 20th anniversary of Hairspray, the musical. He's also had celebrated roles in musical shows such as Wicked, Ghost, Jesus Christ Superstar, and Grease, to name a few, and on screen in Neighbours, the Peter Allen telemovie, Dancing with the Stars, The Masked Singer, Have You Been Paying Attention, and has been a regular on Carols by Candlelight. He recently released his first book, exploring what it is to be a modern Aussie man. The book or audiobook is called Putting on a Show and is available through Affirm Press. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about being the Moomba King, life after fame and Australian Idol, ego, taking ownership, emotions, his new book, losing his singing contract, his favourite day, February the 2nd, embracing your weird, entertainment, success, and plenty more. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. Can you tell me about this?
Yeah.
Moomba King. What is that? I have no idea, but it looks like a great honour, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. So last year I was crowned the Moomba King, and my Moomba Queen was Rhonda Birchmore. Now, for those who don't know what Moomba is just the festival of Melbourne. It's to celebrate all things Melbourne. So if you're lucky enough to be nominated, you're like the favourite Melbourne personality for the year, which I think is a very lovely honour. Like as a kid, we would watch
Melbourne pretty much.
Yeah, we would watch the parade as a kid, and I loved watching the water skiing along the river. We used to be broadcast live on television, and it was a real honour to be a part of it. I know it's how silly it might seem, but it does bring the people into the town who maybe don't, and it's a full on. I think it's now a 5-day kind of festival they put on, and it's all free. That's what's so great about it. So it brings people from all around Melbourne into the city to experience all the things that we have in the city who might not necessarily come into the city all the time for all these sort of free activities. Some of the stuff they have for kids is so great, like arts and craft and free concerts. And yeah, it's really amazing. Plus there's also the Birdman Rally, which I got to be in.
What's the Birdman Rally?
They built a great big platform at the edge of Birrong Ma, near that sort of sculpture that kind of looks like something that Mambo would have on a T-shirt.
Oh,
that big sculpture. I should know a bit more about this, about being a movie
way
king.
More than me.
And it must be at least 5 or 6 meters high.
Whoa.
And you jump into the water. Everyone has like different sort of. Some people are trying to fly as far as they possibly can, like with wings or with like a plane or like a train.
Yes.
So I just jumped in my king get up.
You just jumped right into
it. It was so good. I just had the best time, and everyone cheering and it was really awesome.
I am very proud of you. Also, really embarrassed that I didn't know that was actually in Melbourne. I've been living in Melbourne my whole life.
Oh yeah,
much.
it's the Member Festival.
Oh, very cool. And how? Okay, first of all, my ego would be skyrocketed high. I'd go up to people to party. Hey, Moomba King, how you doing? Surely that is something that you can have like on your tombstone. That is it.
It was pretty cool, considering it all culminated in the week leading up to opening night for And Juliet. So we opened And Juliet last year in Melbourne at the Regent Theatre, and it was the same week. So Max Martin was here. If you don't know who Max Martin is, Max Martin wrote all the hit songs that were in the show, but also has written hit songs for everyone.
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Celine Dion.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Justin Timberlake.
Oh, so it's pretty good.
Ed Sheeran, Troye Sivan, Ariana Grande. Like he just wrote that latest hit for Ariana Grande. He's prolific. Anyway, I've got a great photo of him wearing the Moomba crown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a very lovely guy. And the music producer, who's also a music producer on Sesame Street and did all of Hamilton stuff, he just called me the Moomba King for the whole run while he was out here from New York. So I thought that was pretty funny. Hey, it's the Moomba King.
Do you ever wear it out? Like, come out the shower, put the robe on, put the king.
No, it's on the bookshelf at home. It does get dusted. So I promise I look after it.
I would have that dead center when you walk in the house. Almost it's an inconvenience to walk around it. Just
on a plinth. Yeah.
Elevated little bit so people can see it. Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. And to share the honour with Rhonda Birchmore, who, star of stage and screen for forever. Rhonda's 130. She's not 130. I'm joking.
No, she's for a long time.
She's just one of the greats. And we just recently did Hairspray, the musical together. And performed on several stages together. It was just a real honour. I just love her.
I'm very proud of you. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
How does one even get that award? Was it just people recognise you and they love what you do?
I think it comes from the council, from the city council. I don't know if it's peer voted. I think it's from a TV Week magazine, like a logie.
Number,
yeah. I think it's. I don't know if it's peer voted. I think it's just who. I don't know, maybe who are the good people of Melbourne, who's on the short list, and then this year was my turn, which is a really lovely honour.
No, I'm genuinely I'm not being psychotic. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would overdo it that they would probably never give another one again because I would wear it all the time.
No, it's the best. And they just announced this year's King and Queen, and it's Emma Memma. Emma, who used to be in the Wiggles many years ago, and now he's a children's entertainer in her own right and a performer, and Ausland sort of ambassador. She's incredible. And also comedian Peter Hellier.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
He is next, hopefully. I want to get him on if you're listening, Pete.
Okay.
Did you ever... Oh, actually, this is hilarious. I know that you did a show and it was called Surprisingly Good, and we'll get into it, which is a hilarious title. We can discuss why you named it that. Do you ever look back at a moment like this and be like, yeah, I am surprisingly good. Look what I've got.
Nah, I'm not that kind of guy. I think... The surprisingly good thing, though, did come from reviews that I'd gotten over the years, whether they're in the paper or just like face to face. People that I'd met, they were like, chatting to them for a couple of minutes, and they're like, "Actually, Rob, you're not a bad bloke." I'm like, "Where's the actually?" At the start of that, and the reviews would say Rob Mills was surprisingly good. You're like, when will I stop being surprising to people? When will I just be good?
Yeah.
And then I sort of, through the process of writing that show, Rob Mills is surprisingly good. I worked out that it's that old thing. As soon as you take ownership of it, it loses its power.
Yep.
So
that's wise.
That's kind of what I was trying to do with that. And maybe it was me that was perpetuating that notion, for someone who maybe doesn't take themselves too seriously, but for maybe people couldn't see that everything that I do, I take very seriously.
Yep.
It's a lot of work to 8 shows a week, to turn up every day and to,
exhaust, even just motivation levels, physically, the whole,
turn up, don't let the team down, all that stuff. Getting into Neighbours, doing that for 3 years and, turning up to stage, up to the studio every day and, out to Nutter Warding and doing your job, doing your lines. Yeah, so I think that was part of it. It was me maybe taking ownership of it. It's something we probably don't do enough in Australia.
I was just about to say, we've got kind of that culture where tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah, we like to knock each other down, and America probably does it the best. Well, I shouldn't say the best. The most extreme side of the other side is like, yeah, I'm awesome. Everything's good, I'm great. Today's going to be a great day, because I'm awesome. I've done this. I've worked towards this. Like, okay, there's a bit of luck involved in your career and the people that you surround yourself with and yada, yada. But there needs to be a little bit of that rubbing off in Australia. I think that there needs to be a bit of you get to a point when you have done the gigs, you have done the work, that you should be able to put your hand up and say, yeah, I do deserve to be here. I deserve this. And that's not something that we culturally in Australia, we do very well. I'm not saying there's a really fine line between confidence and arrogance, but it's just finding that confidence and that self-worth within yourself.
I would need to hear how you've got into that stage. But when I first realized, when I was in America, or I've met Americans, let's just say I'm talking about my writing, my podcast. Yeah, it's not bad. And like, oh, okay. But here, if you say not bad, that might mean it's actually pretty good. But for them, it just means it's not good.
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting perspective. Like, yeah, I'm really good at this. I'm like, well, that guy's so arrogant. But then as I realized, no, he's probably very confident as well.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I know it's been a big journey for you, and to take ownership of you saying, you know what, I'm actually good. So was it quite liberating when the name of your show, you put it out there and through that experience?
Yeah, I think it was through that show, and then just over time, I don't ever see myself as the person who's the best at the thing. I use this analogy a few times, right, where I played sport all through my childhood. Yep. T-ball, baseball, cricket, footy.
T-ball.
Yeah, my brother's big into baseball, and out in Blackburn and Forest Hill, we played winter and summer baseball. Anyway, I think I realised what I loved is just being part of the team. I didn't like being the recording solo artist straight after Idol. I didn't like being the one person in the spotlight. I like being the back pocket player. There's other roles you might get. You're the full forward or you're the star centre, but I just like being part of the team.
Yeah,
and that's where I fit. I feel like my MO is. I feel most comfortable just being part of it. I don't mind having to do all the interviews and being on the poster and all this stuff, but it's not the thing that I'm striving for.
Shared collaboration.
Yeah, I like being part of the team. That's what I really love. I love the working with the writers and creatives and helping the whole thing, the whole picture. It's not just about me. I think I've realized I've never really wanted it to be about me, which is weird when, like, especially the world that we're in at the moment. It's all about self-driving your Instagram followers and TikTok. It kind of turns me off. But also, if you don't do it, then how do you get noticed? And it's a battle psychological battle I have with myself a lot.
So how do you kind of balance that? Because I also have that. I don't love being on social media all the time and doing the posts and all of that stuff, but I love the collaborating. And at some level, you do need that, whether you're an actor or a singer or whatever. People do look at that. I aim to not try to be in that world as much as possible, but it can be very, I don't quite have the word, but it can, I know a lot
narcissistic.
Of people, yes. Like
it plays on the narcissistic. Look, we all have narcissistic traits in us. We all have,
bad, a shadow.
Yeah, virtues. We have this sort of spectrum that we sort of slide back and forth between. But like, I think Instagram, and if that's the only thing that you're after, it's a horrible place to be. But at the same time, maybe it works for you. I don't know. As I said, that's why I loved musical theatre. Sort of falling into that, not falling into, but sort of moving towards it. After Idol, I was like, oh, I like this. I like being in the team. I like being part of the storytelling, a bigger story that's bigger than myself, my own narrative.
That's pretty big because, you start out as a singer. I know you're doing bands or cover bands, and a lot of, the lead singer, all eyes are on you. And maybe at that time, we all would have been like this, to be like, I'm going to be a star, which is great, but all eyes are going to be on me. And then as you go through this journey, which we'll go over, which is incredible, you realize, potentially shared success is actually more fun. You get to play with other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
It's the best. The team, I go back to the team thing, being part of a team. I just love it. The singing in the pub bands, man, that was super cool. Learning about storytelling and singing through other people's stories. I think that's where it sort of started for me anyway. Like every time I'd sing a song, whether it's a K-San or, a Matchbox 20 song, I'm like, I was instinctively singing, what is this song about? Like, what is
You find the meaning.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think that's maybe where I've always tried to connect with the lyrics. So therefore, when people are watching me, they're not just hearing the song, they're hearing what's the story maybe? I don't know. I think I've always kind of just instinctively done that. That's the most important thing about, I think, singing a song, like listening to Taylor Swift on the weekend. All these songs are great stories that she writes. All right, not all of them, but like...
I get you.
And
there's a reason.
There's a reason that they work. There is a reason that they resonate, because I think she hasn't got the greatest voice in the world. Don't come at me, Swifties. But what she has got is a great storytelling ability, and that's far more important, I think.
Just a side point, does she write all of her songs? She
Yeah.
Oh, really?
In the very beginning, she's definitely written heaps, and then she collaborated with Max Martin on the 1989.
Yep.
Jack Antonov has produced a lot of her stuff. I only know this because my partner is a crazy Swiftie. Can I give her? I'll give her a plug.
Yeah.
She's doing a podcast called Ready for It. I don't know where this is coming out, but it's to get you ready for the tour. Anyway, it's
so she's not just a little Swiftie; she's a big Swiftie. She's doing
huge.
Like what are we talking about? Huge, like half the bed's covered in Taylor Swift.
No. Like there's a lot of merch though that's been bought over the last couple of weeks.
I have to keep all of my toys and figurines at the back. Do you have like a room for just?
Yeah. There's a lot of Swiftie stuff. Yeah.
The cupboard send me a picture. This is great.
The cupboard is full of Swiftie merch.
Have you tried to contact like the managers or the agents and?
I haven't. But Georgie will be in Sydney this weekend to see the show for the 4th time.
Wow. And does it get better each time?
Yeah, for her, yeah. And I got to witness her in her full Swiftie glory on the weekend, and I was like, she really loves it. And I love anyone who loves something so passionately, yeah.
It's actually really interesting because I used to hate gardening, and as you've seen, I'm doing gardening. And
it's beautiful at the front, yeah.
Thank you. One of my friends... He's not the most charismatic person, but then when he talks about his garden, this was a few years ago, it's like he lights up. That's what I'm interested in.
That's the thing.
When someone lights up, I don't care what the topic is, it is beautiful, it's contagious, it inspires you.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
That's the thing that he should be doing with his life.
And
whenever someone talks, whether it's figurines or whether it's whatever it is, whatever the thing is that gets you off, or like, that your eyes light up and you're passionate about, that's the thing you should all be driving towards.
That is an amazing bit of advice. It's something you've obviously figured out.
Yeah, I think it was musical theatre for me. I didn't realise how much, and it was just being a part of that sort of storytelling. And I just love it. I was teaching a workshop on the weekend to some kids. I left there just feeling just so, I felt empowered because I learnt lots from the kids. I got to share some, I don't know, dare I say wisdom. But yeah, I love it. I love teaching. I've always loved it. And I loved, I just love being a part of helping people learn how to be better storytellers through song.
I think that is amazing. And we were talking about this off air. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
The workshop?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a mock audition I sort of set up. So I get the kids to walk in the room. Sometimes they bring their sheet music. If we've got a pianist, that's all the better. But quite often the kids are just singing to a backing track, and I'll get them to sing like a verse chorus, and then we'll go through the song, which will never happen in an audition. But it's just to get them to learn how to walk in the room.
Yep.
Like, you could be the best singer, the best performer, but if you feel nervous and you can't walk in the room even, You have this thing, I said this to the kids and all the workshops, your number one job as a performer is what? And they say, sing good? I go, no. And they dance well? No. It's be comfortable. Oh, that's your first job. So as soon as you walk in the room, if you're nervous, we as human beings are empathetic and we watch you being nervous. We're automatically nervous for you. We want to feel at ease so we can just watch the performer do their thing. So your number one job, even if you have to fake it, which we all have to fake it for a very long time. I'm still faking it. I'm still here. But yeah, as soon as you feel comfortable just being there, we as the audience are comfortable knowing that you're going to do the thing.
Very good advice once again. I feel like that's also a journey. But in terms from the nerve side, as you said, when you see someone nervous, you then go out of your way and you are kind of like, trying to help them, and it takes away, it actually gives me an anxiety feeling. So I think it's really
to try and help them.
Yeah, sometimes I'm too empathetic, and then sometimes I'm like, fuck that, I'm not going to help. And it actually, I was like, oh no, they're struggling. And I feel like that's not only great advice for just doing their craft, but life advice as well.
Yeah, I think I said this to my brothers. They've both got children. They're nearly all teenagers now. And I said to them, get them into acting, not to become actors. There's not enough jobs. But to learn how to feel comfortable, to read lines, to learn about what it means to be in a character, or how does a character feel about these things? Wait a minute, how do I feel about these things? So then I can then portray that feeling as my character. So the quicker you learn how you feel about something, the more equipped you are to be a better human being. The more
informs you.
Exactly. The more comfortable you feel, even just standing and delivering lines. That means if you're in the boardroom, or if you have to talk to someone, if there's any conflict, you've got those skills already because you've learnt them in a script, or because you've stood up in front of people and had people watching you. It's just getting over that fear of being watched, I suppose.
It's multifaceted as well, because it also allows you to explore your emotions in different sense. And
correct.
Most of us, we all go through this. There's no one on the planet that's the most self-aware person, and that's just a little tool, not even little, to be able to go, this is how I feel about this. And then it like comes out in different ways and you can manage your emotions.
All arts does that, whether it's acting, whether it's painting, whether it's music, you can express yourself through the art. And that's the place that we really connect with each other as well.
I agree. And coming from the accounting side, I didn't do any creative arts. And then when I'm writing, I'm exploring different sides. This character would act like that, but I wouldn't. Why wouldn't I? And it was like I took a drug, and I'm just like doing all the different levels of like my shit that I need to work through, and be like, I do that. I need to work on that. I'm like, wow. Then I did improv. I'm not an improviser by any means. And that was looking in the mirror. And
scary, right?
Absolutely like, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or I'm not going to look cool, and all of this.
It's all about, I did a workshop at the Junior Theatre Festival, which they do every year, which is fantastic. If anyone's got young kids, look into it. It's really wonderful. It's like a jamboree for musical theatre nerds, and it's the best. I remember talking to the kids going, how great, you've already met your weirdos. Like, to meet your own weirdo. And I say weirdos with so much love and compassion and joy, because I feel sorry for the muggles who don't understand what it is to have already worked this out. I like singing and dancing. Great. All right. These are my tribe. I mean, it might change over the years, but these are my people that don't mind expressing themselves. How awesome to find that at such a young age.
That is also really awesome, because, when I was an accountant, that wasn't necessarily my tribe. But then when I found like the ladies in my kinesiology, I'm like, this is an aspect of my tribe. Improv to a degree, doing all of this. It's actually so cool. But I remember that amongst my like accounting tribe, there was no like play or fun or this is who you are. We have to be serious. We're accountants. And I'm like, even though we're in our I'm like, we're in our early 20s, and I don't want to have that belief system. That does not work for me. If that is going to work for you, which I don't think it is, good for you. And just first of all, everyone is weird. Yeah. Everyone has that. We talked about my friend with the gardening aspect. Everyone's just got various different levels of weirdness, or they don't feel comfortable to embrace it.
Yeah, embrace your weirdness. Let your freak flag fly. I'm so glad that you got through that place of like, this is not for me. There's a lot of people that would just be in your position and be like, well, I signed up for this. This is all I want to do.
Yeah, everyone. There weren't many people, and there's no judgment whatsoever. We've all got our own paths. But it was
also, they might love it more than you.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed it my level or lower, then what do you get out of whatever you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you could have disliked it more than me. But I think it's very interesting is that I kind of had people along the way, and I know you've had mentors where people would even just ask the question, are you happy? And I'm like, no one's ever asked me that question. What does happiness mean? Why am I doing this? And having people along the way to steer me along this path, which is going to change a lot.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But just being able to like express yourself, we can't necessarily do that. I know you've spoken about your book and other podcasts as well, but that is like the best thing. And I never had that before. And now I'm really appreciative when someone like you brings it up and you actually are immersed in it. I think it is great.
It's nice to be a reminder that you're like, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, yeah. Just it can be a little tap.
Yeah.
We don't always have that. And I encourage people, whether it's gardening or whatever, to just do whatever they want. You talked about 100 things, but I think for me, improv was the great like gateway to meet different people.
Yeah.
We had like a 50 or 40-year-old marketing executive doing really well, and he said he struggled with huge anxiety. He'd get up completely changed by the end of the 8 weeks. He then met other people. We had other people who had various different challenges, and they went in their different ways. And it's blown my mind what just putting your hand up and saying yes, trying something you like, can actually really do wonders for you.
Or it's also sucking in front of people.
Yeah, that
And then realizing, because this fear of failure comes from a place of like deep primal, this sort of fight or flight kind of thing where we think we can actually die from the thing.
Yep.
So whatever anxiety you're feeling, especially if it's at an extreme level, it comes from caveman days where this is my old acting coach told me this when I was trying to learn Shakespeare stuff like Macbeth and Hamlet when I first got into acting. And he's like, your fear is coming from a place of fight or flight where you want to leave the cave, but you're not sure if you want to leave the cave because you need to eat, but also they might die when you go out there because the saber-toothed tiger is out there. It was a really great analogy. He was like, you can't die from being on stage. I mean, the review might say you die on stage, but like you can never actually die. So it's good to do those things that also, and just to suck for a little while. There's a great quote from Ira Glass, who started This American Life podcast, which is an excellent podcast. It talks about the people who are creative, who have this incredible taste. I'm going to butcher it, but I'll paraphrase his quote. Is basically, you want to get to the stage where your taste is as good as your ability.
Oh, interesting.
So like you see all these great artists and great work, whether it's a musician or an actor or a comedian or whatever, and then you just are not good enough, and the only way to get better is to do the work and to bridge that gap. He said so many people just drop off because I'll never be as good, but they only got as good because they kept doing the work. So it's your job to just keep doing the work and bridge that gap between your taste and your ability.
That's very awesome.
Yeah.
What just springs to mind is when I was doing improv, and I thought because I'm a funny writer, I'm a funny guy, I'm going to kill doing improv. Never done performing whatsoever. I didn't know how to get up on stage. I realized very quickly, and I failed a class, and that destroyed for like 2 days my ego.
Yeah.
Best
but
thing.
It's just your ego.
That exactly, but it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because it really, I wasn't sulking or anything. I think I was upset, obviously, but I'm like, you know what? I'm actually not that good, but I love this, and this is great.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the environment was so good where if you get up and you to do something bad and no one laughs, they clap you, they applaud you. You got up. And I thought that was amazing.
Huge.
Yeah.
I did that for the kids on the weekend. Like I said, is this a safe space? They went, yep, safe space. All right, so whatever comes out your mouth when you sing and you perform in front of this room, it's a safe space. There are no wrong notes. There are just notes that are not quite right yet.
Yeah. That's really good. Because for someone like me, especially then and maybe still now, I found it really hard not to get a laugh every time, and it took me away from being in the moment. But realizing that I just said something that wasn't funny, the intention was fine, no one cared, just move on. And that's life. Like every word that comes out of your mouth is not perfect. And it was very liberating. And also to see other people really fly. That was actually just as rewarding for me because it was so, first of all, everyone's kind of like a mirror to you, but to see, wow, this person's smiling, it's contagious. And all this stuff we spoke about.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's my life advice. So you talked about the failure side.
Yeah.
I've got 1,000 points, but I was thinking about this earlier. When you're singing, do you feel 100% confident, there's no nerves? When you get up there, you give 100% performance? Or sometimes there's a bit of nerves and...
Sometimes when, like I had COVID in Perth when we opened at the start of the year, and coming back, I knew my voice wasn't as strong as it could be, so I got a bit nervous about how it's going to sound or Can I sing? Am I any good anymore? What am I doing with my life? So a little bit of self-doubt crept in just for a couple of nights there. And then I was like, oh, just take it easy. Just take it easy on yourself. You don't need to judge yourself too much. You're coming back from COVID. It affects your...
everything.
Yeah, I was coughing a lot. So your vocal cords are tired and damaged and all that sort of stuff. But usually when I'm fit and well and healthy, it's like going in for an audition. If you know you've done the work, you're fine. Like you can take direction in the room. You can perform to the best of your ability. You can take the notes. You know they're not personal attacks. They are just professional
That's
critique.
a journey in itself. But
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people starting out really struggle with that. Like, so you think I'm no good? No. Just what we're doing here in this room in this very moment. This is let's just work on that.
Yeah.
Take the notes. Especially take the notes from your mentors. Your when I say critics, I mean the creative people in the room around you. I would probably not listen to the critics, but from your peers, certainly, it's definitely worth, especially if they're constructive. But yeah, for me, I always say to the people I'm working with, I said to Amy La Palmer, who I'm working with at the moment, the very first day of rehearsals, I know that you want everything to be perfect. Just so you know, I also do as well. So if there's anything that comes up, just tell me.
Oh, that's great. And then you can have that two-way flow, and it's not.
I might disagree.
Didn't do this.
Correct. I might disagree with you, and we'll debate and banter, and we'll try and find a way through. But like, do not hold back, because there's nothing worse in a long-running show than resentment and not getting your way or not working out how to get through a thing. So just say the things. So I say the things, and she says the things, and it's so much better to have that. Conflict. It's not really conflict with us because we both want the show to be the best thing.
Yeah, you're there for the highest good of the show.
Correct.
And that takes away all the residual.
It takes away the ego out of it. Just say the things. I think it's really important. I think it's for a lot of kids who don't have that sort of conflict training or like any kind of...
They're like, conflict, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Or you're attacking me. I'm not attacking you. I'm just, and we can use that in your day-to-day because you can take notes. You're always taking notes from the choreographer, the director, or whatever. I think it's...
I can see why you're engaged, being able to listen and be able to come back to the highest good of the relationship. That's great.
With my partner or engaged in this podcast?
Both.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I know it's not necessarily like practical advice, but when I was going through my scripts, the script contract stuff, I was like, I wanted to do that because the communication between me and the managers weren't so great.
Fuck the emails. Get the emails away and just talk. Get on a call.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, sorry to cut you off. Sorry, I'm a massive believer in if you need to communicate anything that's longer than a yes, no, or a date, or if it's creative, get on a call.
So you can look at the tone. You can see there was no exclamation mark.
Yep. Face-to-face is the best, but just because they get to read your body language. So that is a huge thing when we're communicating with each other. Body language is huge. Text message and email just takes away all of that. Sometimes I reply really shortly to emails just because I'm busy.
Yeah.
And some people say, "Oh, you're very short." So it doesn't need.
You can't. It's a lose-lose.
Yeah, I was like, but it didn't need any more. But this is not a creative kind of chat that we're having. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm big.
You did much better than me. That's
big on a call. Always call if there's a no. So like if someone asks me to do something, I'll always call and say, I'm so sorry, I can't do that. But have you thought about this person? Have you thought about that person? Because they will always remember the fact that you took the time to call just to apologize and also to offer help. I think it's important.
You know, it's very interesting. I come from a Jewish background, and Jewish weddings are a little bit different.
L'chaim.
Thank you. I don't know if you've ever been to a Jewish wedding, but they're a little bit different apparently. So one of my friends wanted to get this photographer who specializes in the Jewish community. And he said, unfortunately, I can't. But do you have a bit of time? I'll give you notes for if you get someone who doesn't know. And for an hour, my friend wrote notes.
See?
And we all talk about this guy.
Yeah.
Because how nice is that? He can't get the money.
Yeah.
And obviously he wants the money, he doesn't have the availability. And we're actually getting that guy.
Yeah. You remember it.
And it's so unnecessary. He could just, first of all, he doesn't need he can just say no. He then gave advice, but then he went up and beyond advice, questions and answers. Like that is...
Yeah. That's you pay, and also you're paying it forward. It's that thing of just paying it forward. Like, I'm sorry I can't help, but yeah, pay it forward is the best. Because also if you're in that situation, you love it. You don't want just a no. You love a bit of extra feedback or you love a bit of extra help. it goes a really long way.
And I feel like that's also helps you, not that you're doing it for these reasons, but you also pay it forward. You talked about workshops, but you do other things as well. And that would come back to, even when how do we pronounce it? Mumba King, because of all of that. People remember you when you're kind, and you're not being kind to someone because you want something. It's because, you would have liked it because they did it to you. Yeah.
It's a Jesus thing, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Do unto others. That's a big Bible thing. There must be something in the.
It'd be some like Marvel characters probably said it as well.
That's a big Bible thing. Surely it's a Jewish thing as well. Like, do unto others as you want to do unto you. Like, there's a.
You're speaking to the wrong person. I don't know.
Are you a bad Jew?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a cultural Jew.
I know. That one always resonated with me. I'm not a very religious person, but I always just love. Yeah. That's just a human thing.
But it's especially in this field, you do a lot of various things. I don't even know what, like if I had to call you one word, I wouldn't know, maybe an entertainer or a creative. And it can be very hard to get work. There's not that many spots. And I know that people know you now, but you don't know what your next gig's necessarily going to be.
Oh yeah, you can't be a dick.
Yeah.
We're a very small industry in this country. Your integrity and reputation is everything. Like, absolutely everything in this country. I suppose everywhere. Just don't be a dick. Like, just be a good bloke, be a good person, work hard when you're there, thank the crew who are working well, like heaps more hours than you are. Like, do the right thing, like help others when you can, ask questions, don't get in the way, stay in your lane. I don't know. I'm a big believer in just don't be a dick. A mate of mine said this, he was getting a lot of TV ads for a while. I was like, how do you get, he goes, look, I just do this thing when I walk in and I just talk to the crew. I talk to the directors, like I crack a few jokes. He goes, I'm just being myself, but if it comes down between me and the other guy,
they want to work with
the guy who they want to hang out with for 3 days while they shoot the ad.
Yeah.
Like, who do I want to work with? So if you're a good person, turns up, does their job and can do the things.
I even learnt that I'm not perfect whatsoever, but even as an accountant, when you're doing these awful whatever we're doing, but we're going away in small teams, the managers actually do like a draft, which is the funniest thing. I didn't believe that accountants would sit in a room, all the managers, they sit in a room with like everyone's name and they pick who they want to be with.
Oh, that's tough.
And it's not because of how good you are. It's
they want to hang out with.
Yeah, but isn't that the concept of a bunch of accantants in a table, got a table out, and they're
I'll take Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take Sophie.
Steve, yeah, Sophie. I find that very funny.
Katrina got really drunk last time. I don't want her.
Yeah, and so people actually thought, as a side point, my skills were atrocious because I didn't want to be there, and I had no interest. People thought I was next in line to be partner. And I don't say this arrogantly. I say this because people's just perception was if you're like nice and you get along with people, that will get you there. I'm like, you also need skills and talent. Don't get me wrong. So I was just like me. And they're like, yeah, man, you're killing me. Like, have you seen my work?
You're like, this is not for me.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, it's great advice. I also would imagine, we'll do a bit of a timeline. I feel like you've learned a huge amount about yourself. Maybe we'll start at Australian Idol. I think you're 21, get into Australian Idol. This is the biggest show pretty much Australia's ever produced of all time.
Yeah, we didn't even know at the time when I auditioned. We didn't know it was going to be the biggest show.
And it's season 1, right?
Season 1,
yeah.
So you just go in and audition and sing the song and hope for the best.
And it's just as a side point, isn't it remarkable? I don't know what the numbers were, but like everyone knew. At least half the population would have known what's going on to it.
Mate, there's like 3 million people that watched the finale.
Whoa.
I think it was the highest rated television show of all time until maybe like, I don't know, whatever's come out recently. But like,
I don't know, at the time, there's no Netflix, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone, and you're a young guy. We'll go through a bit of your journey and where you're at there, and you kind of sprung into the spotlight. Every human, I don't care if you're like the great Buddha, you're going to have an enormous ego. You're a young man, and I feel like that man from there to now, you have gone on, and we'll get into it, a massive journey just to kind of not only be comfortable in yourself, but to like care and think about others, to have the peripherals, to not just see so linearly, to see more holistically.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted to do. I talk a lot about throughout the book.
Like the book, the name?
Rob Mills putting on a show. It's all about mates, manhood and mental health.
Great.
With help from my good friend Paul Connolly. Yeah, I talk a lot about this sort of journey of not self-confidence, but finding your self-worth. And I don't think I had a lot of self-worth back then at all. I knew that I liked to sing, was in the band and was doing that for my weekends, and but didn't really know who I was or what I wanted to do with my life. And then sort of thrust into the limelight, and then people having this idea of like, oh, he's this young party guy, he must party all the time. I was like, just so you know, before all that, before Idol, I worked 5 days a week in a factory or mowing lawns or whatever. Then on the weekends, Thursday to Sunday, I would sing in a band. So there was not a lot of partying for me at all. I missed out on so many 18ths and 21st and birthdays because I was a guy who always worked. So when I got to Sydney, I went from singing 30 songs a night, getting on a plane to Sydney for the very first time. I'd never been on a plane before I did Idol.
Really?
Yeah, everything was very new to me. And then I only had to sing one song a week or half a song. Really, it was like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And then if there was a chance to go partying, I was like, I'm gonna party.
What 21-year-old would say no to that?
Man, I missed out. As I said, I missed out on so many kind of parties throughout my teenage years. When I say I missed out, I used to go out pretty hard on a Sunday. But
Sunday?
Like I'd finish work.
Yeah, but it's a Sunday. What's open on a Sunday?
The Star Bar was open. A couple other bars around Port Melbourne when I was in St Kilda when I was a kid.
I see southeast like me, yeah.
Yeah, the Vineyard was always a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think for me it was just trying to work out who I was, but that just would definitely come years later. Everyone sort of had this perception of who I was, and sort of the young sort of party boy, and then I was like, well, okay, maybe that's just who I am for a while, and then I realized, I'm actually not that. I actually really like working, and I really like storytelling, and I really like people and being a part of a team. And as I said, I found that in musical theatre years later.
And was musical theatre ever something you considered before?
No, not at all. I mean, I'd watched musicals as a kid, loved all the Disney films and Sound of Music and all the sort of the big Mary Poppins when I was a kid, loved it all. But my voice type just definitely does not sit in a Rodgers and Hammerstein and Stephen Sondheim kind of world. I'm more of a rock pop kind of guy to sort of learn a bit more legit singing when I got older.
Yep.
But never thought it was something that I could do until I went to London in 2006. Went there for the World Cup, was over in Germany, and then saw a few shows on the West End. Saw We Will Rock You, Avenue Q, and saw Wicked for the first time. And I was like, I reckon I could do that. I saw Adam Garcia play Fierro, and I was like, he's an Aussie. He's doing it. I could do that. I mean, surely he's a much better dancer than me, but I reckon I could give that a go.
That's pretty good knowing.
Yeah. It was like, so then I remember calling my manager the next day saying, when Wicked comes to Australia, can you just get me an audition? And I came home a few months later and just took acting classes, singing lessons, dance lessons. And I was like, I wrote in like a journal, like I was like doing the thing like The Secret. I was like, I deserve this role. I'm doing this work.
You could see yourself, you could feel it. Oh, you could do the whole, can you tell me a little bit?
Yeah, so I would write before every audition, like positive affirmation things about why I felt like I deserved this role, and why I felt like I resonated with this character. And his character story arc was all about a kid or a guy who was sort of dancing through life and not really having any purpose. And I was like, that's me. I'm that guy. So every night, eventually after I got the role, after four months of auditions and callbacks, and remember doing this role every night going, that was my journey. That was my journey from, a kid who had no real direction, and then finding the purpose. The purpose for me was musical theatre, and in Fierro's case, it was finding Elphaba and finding real purpose in helping others. Yeah. So I got to relive my own kind of story arc every night.
Very healing.
Oh, mate, for 2 years. It was incredible.
I want to come back because I know February 2nd is the best day of your life. I want to build up to this because this is, first of all, it's incredible to get Wicked, but the journey up until getting Wicked blew my mind hearing this. So after Australian Idol, I want to know a few things. Were you thinking that you'd be the next best like pop star and you're going to kill it and this was going to be a life, or were you thinking? Oh,
yeah. I got signed to the record label before we did the tour.
Was that the tour with everyone?
Yeah, the tour with everyone. And that was amazing. We played like Rod Laver Arena, Sydney Entertainment Centre. We played all the big arenas across the country. We all got paid $2,000 or $2,500 a show each.
Whoa. Especially then.
Just so we're clear, $2,500 when you're selling out 16,000
didn't even think about that.
is not a lot of money. Even shared between the 13 of us that were in the show is like,
That's like
they made a lot of money. Michael Chugg made a lot of money. He owes me a lot of money. I'm joking. But they owned us. They owned us from the concept and from the show, and the producers and.
Can you? Sorry for going off topic.
Yeah.
People always talk about musical artists, their contracts, and how they actually own you.
Yeah.
But people don't really know what that means. We always go, "Oh, they fuck you over. They own you. You can't do anything."
Oh, I wouldn't say. Look, I don't think we're getting fucked over. So before you do Australian Idol, we signed a contract for management. We signed a contract for merchandise, which was they will take 50% of everything that you make for the next 3 years.
Even if it has nothing to do with.
Well, if it's your name, your brand, yeah. So they take 50% of everything in case you want to make a T-shirt or you want to make a jumper or pencil case or whatever. They take 50% off just automatically. And the other one was a record deal. So, and luckily they took up the option of the record deal and the merchandise and management. I ended up finding my own management, so which is fine for me. And the album was great. Put together, I wrote about 25 songs, and 13 ended up being the number on the. So I think it's 7 of my co-writes made the album, which was pretty awesome. And the album reached like top 20, and the first single came out. Miss Vanity came out at number 6, and then the next couple of songs in the top 20. So it was kind of cool, you know. And then BMG got merged with Sony soon after, like a year after, and then my contract was ripped up. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Oh, what were you thinking at the time?
Well, I guess that's it.
Oh, the career's done.
Yeah, career's done. That I went back to, I said to my manager, maybe I'll just go back to singing in pubs. She's like, oh, I don't think you should just go back to singing in pubs. I think that's a bit beneath you. I was like, oh, but that's the only thing that I kind of know and want to do and love. And so I didn't do that, and I went back labouring. Yeah, so I was
mates.
with my mates. Yeah, so I was labouring, doing everything from carpentry work, landscaping, plastering. And then I remember just going, this is not for me. I've got more to offer. Luckily for me, I got an audition for Grease the Arena Spectacular. Which I got playing Johnny Casino in 2005. So this is 2 years after Idol, a year after the album, and a year after my tour, which was a very successful tour. I thought it was pretty good, all the way from Cairns back down to Melbourne, playing all the songs. And then, so that was sort of meeting those musical theatre people in that Arena Spectacular that I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. They have this awesome work hard, party hard ethic.
Yep.
And I realised that I had a party hard ethic that I'd somehow accrued over the last couple of years of just not really doing anything, going to nightclubs and getting paid to be there. So it was kind of, it made me want to be their friends. It made me want to, how do I get in with these people? How do I get into this world? As I said, I went overseas, saw some shows, and came back and worked really hard, and got in from the ground up.
Big life change, being one of probably the most well recognised people in Australia. Then losing the contract, and then going back to labour work, which is, I think you were considering it when you were younger, but you couldn't.
Yeah, I was going to be an electrician, but I was colourblind, so that was pretty sad.
So you couldn't see the wires. I didn't even know that was the thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. Greens and browns are very similar under dim lighting, so...
I just imagine you like being a bomb expert. You're like, oh, they didn't tell me these 2 wires.
I would not get the job. Yeah, I definitely would not get the job for that.
So I find this really interesting because there's so many big shifts along the way. But when that contract was done, did you have any aspirations to try and write stuff and get some out, or
No.
you're like, mentally, I'm done?
No, I think for me it was like, well, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I don't wake up every morning wanting to write songs. I do, however, wake up wanting to perform somehow. I don't know, and I didn't know what that was. That's why I think I've always just kind of been a slashy. And I keep saying being part of the team. I like being part of a creative team that writes different stuff, or a podcast that is funny, or a musical which is still storytelling, or collaborating on a book, or that's kind of always just kind of been a slashy.
I like that word. I've never heard it before in that way. And in terms of mentally, while you're working as a labourer, did you have those like higher visions at the start? You're like, this is my life, this is what I got to do. it reminds me a little bit, I can say, sorry, it's like when I was in Counter, I was kind of just at a baseline. I was just going through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very basic. You know that I had a pretty good work ethic as a kid. Like my parents had instilled a very good work ethic in us kids, my two older brothers, that no matter what happens, we're not just going to do nothing.
Yep.
We have to do something.
Yep.
So I was always working. I was always doing something. You need money coming in to live, to survive, to pay rent, to all that stuff. But yeah, I did have that feeling of like, what am I actually doing? I think I was definitely depressed, but didn't know what that was. And then, you try and cure yourself with drugs and alcohol, and I feel really good again. And then you're like,
feel even worse.
And then you feel, So that was a period of just meh, I suppose, of my life.
I think it's really important to talk about this because we all go through it. I went through it. I had that meh feeling, and I wasn't a big drinker, but I would go out. I'd go out every Saturday. And I'd be annoyed if my friends didn't want to go out on Saturday because I was just drinking. Even though it's only drinking once a week, but that's enough.
Yeah.
To feel horrible and do it for all the
But
wrong
it's just
reasons.
to escape from whatever you were feeling.
That's exact. And I even knew it by the end.
Yeah, it's funny like how it's when you're in it, it's hard to, for some reason, it's hard for us to recognize it and that's why I think it's important to have good people around you that can recognize it. For some people, it's gambling. For some people, it's drinking. Some people, it's drugs. Some people, it's just gaming. Yeah. Like sometimes you might get caught up. You're playing games for 48 hours on end, or 12 hours a day. Like that's probably too much gaming.
Yeah.
Like what's actually happening in your life that's making you escape from the reality?
Yeah.
It's important to notice those kind of trends in yourself, also in your friends.
Agreed. It's pretty hard. It took me. Some people say I was super quick, but for me, I'm like, no, I let this go on for too long. Even if it was only a few months or a year, I just knew. And that feeling, no one on the planet deserves to have that feeling. And as you said, if you surround yourselves with people that can ask you good questions, I know that you've mentioned that you see a psych in your book.
Yeah, very. Mate, if you don't think you have the friends for that, or that can hold those conversations, or that you're not capable yet, a psych is a really great place to start. A local counsellor, or we're so lucky in Australia. In Victoria, I think you get 10 sessions free or heavily subsidised. If you just go to your GP, they'll put you in touch with a psych, and you get yourself on a mental health plan, which I think is just so cool that you can actually get basically free help to talk through your stuff. And even having someone who's not biased at all, who doesn't know you, who can just listen and give you, there's that word again, but feedback, give you critique and honest feedback that's not biased in any way.
Yeah, it's very interesting. At that age especially, I would have never vocalized how I'm feeling. Even if just speaking out loud, whether I would have, in this situation, whether I would have taken a psych's advice or not, just speaking out loud also gives you clarity of thought. But I didn't have that. It sounds like you didn't necessarily have that.
Maybe we just don't have it as a kid. Maybe that's
not really taught or aware. I see people now and how I interact, and obviously how you interact is very different, and there is way more awareness. But it is like mind-boggling. But going back to that point, no one deserves to live at that baseline and getting I know. But after being on the other side, you appreciate life a lot more. Not all the time, but 95%+ of the time, I'm like, it could be worse. I could be an accountant.
Yeah. There's nothing better than, I suppose, a bit of adversity to breed some awesomeness, is what I say.
Breed some awesomeness.
It teaches you a bit of resilience. Like, okay, how do I get out of this? What's the thing that's going to get me out? Who are the people that I can turn to or lean on, or what is it that I really want, and how do I get it, and what am I willing to do to change it?
Also, why I'm impressed, and I'm not just sucking up to you because you're here, is because, you can say all the words and they're great words, but you actually live the words. And going back to your story, which I've got another example, which we'll build up to Wicked. We've got the screenwriter means like, we'll go there and then we'll go there. You've actually lived it, and you've been on one side, you've come through the other side. And I think that's really inspiring and empowering, and that's probably why your book's been doing so well and why everyone wants to talk to you. You had a manager that you said goodbye to.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know a little bit more about this. I'll just give a little bit of a snippet. I think that your manager did everything for you. You said you didn't know who you were. You were kind of like, you're partying and going out and all of that stuff, but your manager was doing everything for you. So you hadn't necessarily grown up. I hate that word.
Yeah, no. But it's,
and then you get rid of this manager, which takes a lot of courage because they're doing everything, paying your bills, maybe getting your food or stuff like that.
Yeah.
You lose that, And now it's kind of like you're starting a life, or how I would perceive it is you're starting a life again. Can you tell me more about
Yeah, that's a great summary. And I love that person, and we still work together on several things, and we have done over the last couple of years.
Nice.
Like really looked after me, and I didn't know how to break up with that person. It was really hard. It was like, this is a personal relationship, but it's also a professional relationship. It was really difficult. I had many sleepless nights on how do I do this, and I didn't also have the skills, especially in my what's the word I'm after here? I didn't have the social intelligence, is that the word? The emotional I didn't have the emotional intelligence to sort of work out how best to do that. I talk about speaking on the phone. Worst thing I ever did was not speak to her on the phone. I tried to do a business cut and just say, send her an email, this is what we're doing, because my friend was like, no, this is the way you do business. I'm like, but it wasn't just a business thing. It was a very personal thing, and I hurt someone's feelings, and I also I broke that relationship, and I broke, I suppose, trust that I had in that person, with that person, sorry. Not that I didn't have any trust in her. I just realized I just needed something different. In hindsight, I definitely would have done things differently with that. The phone call that I talk about now is the one thing that would have probably saved a lot more heartache between us, which took years to, I suppose, to repair.
Well, it's pretty big of you to acknowledge the regret, but also at the same time, it is very courageous of you, because it doesn't sound like you have much autonomy in your life.
I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do or how to do it, but I just knew that something wasn't quite right for me, that I needed a manager who was a bit more hands-off, or a bit more, because I think she was just doing whatever she thought was best for me.
Yeah.
And it's just not what I needed. Going to another manager who was very hands-off and didn't really do anything, I realized, I'm going to do a lot for yourself. Okay. What's that going to be? I don't know if it's courage, but it just needed to, like I said to a lot of kids, like, you got to jump in the deep end. You got to try.
Honouring that feeling as well. You know something's not right. You may have not communicated to how you wanted to. Great lesson anyway, and for all of us. But you felt something, whether it was in your gut or your heart, your head, whatever, and you actually did something about it.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to loved ones, we don't want to hurt their feelings, so we just go on. But the worst thing you can do is hurt yourself. Like, that's the worst thing you can possibly do, because what's the thing that they say when you're on an airplane, when the oxygen masks come down?
Put yours on.
Put yours on first. Make sure you're okay before you can help others. So
I've just seen so many relationships where one of the people, but maybe both, I only know like the one, where they're clearly, the love's gone, let's put it that way. And they're doing it because they're scared of like hurting the other person's feelings, which I get. I did that when I was much younger, and hopefully I've learned. That is a scary trap. You feel like you're trapped, you can't get out of it. Yeah. But your life is like long in the sense, hopefully.
It's huge. So just say the things, and hopefully they're on the same page. Or maybe there's a way that you can repair them. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah.
I remember having chats with my partner years ago. I remember when I proposed to her, I was like, this is also the ring that allows you to say whatever you need to say. Like, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, say it. There's nothing, because I'm here. This ring represents
we're
not just
for the long haul.
Yeah, not the fact that we're just going to get married, but that you can tell me anything.
It's like, well, I actually hate you, but I'll keep the ring.
She said to me the next day, she's like, you told me that I can say anything. I was like, yeah. She's like, I don't like the ring. So I was like,
oh, so you did it? Okay.
It was brutal. Brutal.
Oh, okay.
But also, I went to a jeweler, and they'd said to me, if she doesn't like it, we can bring it. We'll make something else.
Oh, okay. I was told very early on, years ago, do not organize a ring, because I would have got like.
That's why I organized one with a company that.
Actually, okay.
Would make something else.
And also I was the best man for my friend, and he organised the ring before. He got married well before all of us. But even then I'm like, you sure? Is that the ring? Like, you don't want to just get like a fake ring.
I made a mistake. You definitely need to ask the friends.
Yeah, that's if anyone takes anything back, that is the most important thing. Yeah.
But now she's got the ring that she loves. Okay, and I loved being a part of that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad. I forgot how we got here, but what were you thinking when the manager, so you've let go of this manager, you've got another manager, which sounds like you've got 100% control of your life. You might not necessarily have the skills in the moment to be able to live the life that maybe other people you're like don't need to compare, but you're kind of like a fresh baby coming out of the womb.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've moved into. I mean, I was always very capable.
Yeah.
I managed the band that I was in. I sort of had a bit of autonomy on kind of what I wanted with the album, and only a little bit maybe, but a little bit of a say. Yeah, I sort of, but it was heaps more autonomy over my own life and existence and about what I wanted, and that took definitely a few years of sort of growing up, reading books. I think reading books also really helped.
Oh, nice. But even like small things, like I don't know what you didn't do, but just the small things like
groceries, just
things
having
like
enough or having your control of your money. Not that I didn't have control of my money, but I sort of
saying it's not really a major thought in
Correct.
your life, and now
budgeting and knowing how much you've got, actually money to spend and what you want to spend your money on, and how to facilitate all that.
For me, that would be quite overwhelming when you go from everything done to not that much being done. Mentally, do you remember how you're feeling, and how was it like, oh shit, like what am I going to do? Or you're like, fuck, this is my life. I just have to move forward.
No, I think I've always been pretty good at just going forward. Like I don't think I've ever been, as I said, if I've jumped in the deep end, I'll just swim. You just keep going. It's wasted energy to worry too much about stuff that's happened. So like, just move forward.
I agree.
Yeah, you'll work it out. I think I like that sort of mindset of just jump and we'll work it out.
Very interesting. So we're going to build up to the most important day in your life. I think it's really cool. Australian Idol, the ego, the manager, you lose your contract. There's other things. You're working as a labourer. And now you work very hard. You underplayed this. You work very hard. You see Wicked. You can do it. I think you said that you kind of pushed your manager to get an audition. 4 months of doing the audition, singing lessons, dancing lessons. And then you finally get it. Why do you celebrate February the 2nd out of all the days? Not Christmas necessarily as much. It's February the 2nd.
Yeah, I don't really celebrate my birthday sort of now, because Georgie makes me, because she loves birthdays. She's like, you got to celebrate birthday.
I feel like it's a very man thing. We're like, oh, just a birthday, man.
I'm like, I just survived. All I've done is all I've done is survive. Let's celebrate something that I've actually done.
Okay.
But this February 2nd is the day that I actually got the keys to my very first apartment. Actually, just up the road here, off Grange Road.
Oh, no.
Yeah, in.
Thanks for telling people where I live. But
sorry.
No, I don't care.
In Ormond.
They won't know where I am.
It's such a beautiful moment for me. I'll never forget. There's a sign on Grange Road as you're driving south, and it says left to Mulgrave and right to Brighton. And I had grown up in Mulgrave, Glenwaverley. Nice. My mum's house was in Mulgrave, and Brighton was always seen as rich success, like a version of success.
Yeah.
So to be at 26, sort of halfway between Mulgrave and Brighton, I thought
half made it.
Yeah, I've got a photo of that, and it's in my photo bucket at home, of random photos that you keep over the years. But that one I always keep as that was a really momentous place. Anyway, so February 2nd, I was there. I got the keys to the apartment. And when I say apartment, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. It's very small, but
it's amazing.
Yeah. I'd saved up, money from doing gigs and stuff. And then my manager walked in with a bottle of champagne. This is the manager we were talking about before. And she said, congratulations on the apartment, and you booked Wicked. And I just burst into tears. Nice. I get emotional thinking about it now, because I have full La La Land flashbacks of romanticizing my life about how it was and how it came to be and how it is now. Without Wicked, I don't get to meet all those people. I don't learn work ethic. I don't get to meet incredible people like Kelly Dickerson and Lucy Durack, and my mate Rodney Dobson, who loves football but also loves musical theatre. And you can be both. You can love footy and musical theatre. I get to work with Bert Newton. I get to work with the very talented Rob Guest, who sadly passed away. I get to meet so many wonderful people. I get to meet my ex in that show, who I have incredible relationship with, and sort of grow and learn about myself through that relationship. And then that sort of love of musical theatre comes from that. And then I go off and do a bunch more shows because of that moment. So it's very meaningful for me. And I'm very lucky that I've got a few mates that will text me on the day or send me something on the February 2nd. It's the day that I have to celebrate.
That is beautiful, and I can feel that as well. Congratulations
to
you. Ed, I just want to pick up on something. The way that I've heard you talk, which is brilliant, and you can't fake it with me because I'd know. Even like when you bring, and I don't want to talk about your ex, but how you see everything kind of as a learning experience for good. This is what I learnt. And you said that all the way through. And then when you even said like your ex-girlfriend of how you grew and you do all of that stuff, that's not that normal. It should be, but it's not that normal. You can be like, oh, my ex was there, or just don't even say it. But it was about
it was a very important relationship to have.
I agree, but a lot of, like a lot of guys, especially the girls, this, or, you can make negative comments because we've got out of a relationship.
But like, it doesn't mean that you didn't love them in the moment and that you just drifted. We both
I agree 100%.
That movie La La Land, we had both watched it after we'd broken up and both were in tears. We're like, this is ours, this is a story. Like, we're not meant to be together, but when we were together, it was amazing. Like,
Great. And
it's sad, but also very beautiful, and we still have that friendship.
And the reason I just nitpick at that is that you are talking about the positives and what you've learned. And obviously we've spoken about it, you've written about it in your book. It still means you feel your emotions and you've gone through it and you've talked about all the stuff you've talked about. But your first point of contact is, this is what I learned, or this is why it was great. You've got like a gratitude mindset, which I think is crucial, especially in the line of work that you're in.
Oh, great. That's just my brain. I think it just goes, I always feel extremely lucky and privileged and grateful to have got all those things, like to learn so much from that. Like, I don't know, I'm a sponge, mate, when it comes to any kind of new thing. And like, I just love it. I was in a comedy trial the other night watching my mate, and we all sat back. It's the first time he's done this new piece. He's going to launch it in May. And we all just got to sit and watch him do it for the first time and then give feedback. I was like, I just loved it. I loved being in the room, be able to help with the feedback and the creativity of it all. And it was wonderful.
You know what? One of the best things that I've had is when I write a script or a scene, I get my friends who aren't in the industry, they see TV, but it's very hard to read a script and then kind of visualize it. And the most amount of fun I have is when I have the room full of my friends, act it out, they can't act, and it is so much fun. They'll give me good points, bad points, feedback, whatever, and it brings me the most joy is having that environment. I don't know how to explain it.
It's a safe space. It's a safe space to have that sort of creative chat. I think it's super important. That's how all good work gets made.
Is it something that you do when you like go over work? I'm sure you practice with your partner, but just even being able to like.
I've got a mate. One of my mates who I caught up with for a walk this morning. One of my favorite things to do is coffee and a walk with a mate and just say all the things. Nice. But I always work with him like on all my auditions. I have done the last sort of 5 or 6 years. It's awesome. It's so good because he's just super kind and super honest. He's like, yeah, it was okay. What about we?
That's great.
What do you think this is about? What do you think this scene's about? You're like, that's right. All the questions that I ask the kids, he's then asking me. So
that's great.
And we get to workshop it all, and
it's very interesting. This is going back to something earlier we said. When I first got feedback from someone who was a writer, she wrote like an episode on The Simpsons, and she didn't give me in the most loving way, but it takes two to tango.
It was brutal.
Yep. She gave me feedback where it's basically, I interpret as, you suck as a writer, you suck as a person, never write again. And look, I've looked back at the feedback since. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I took that so to heart. And I realized it's ridiculous. But I actually had to have a nap. That is unlike my personality. And I took, I was even judging myself for feeling sad about the feedback. And then I realized, similar to what you're saying, is that, you can pick what resonates. You need to be able to put your ego to the side and have people where maybe you have a friend who can deliver the feedback like she did because you'll be able to hear it. And I just thought that was so wonderful, and I'm glad you've got that as well.
Yeah, mate, you got to kill the ego, put your ego aside and just take the note.
Yeah.
Take the note is one of the things I love most that I learned in theatre. It goes for life, especially when it's coming from your superior or boss or whatever. If they're saying it for a reason. Take the note. Just if you need to take it on, if you need to query it later. Especially if you're in a room full of people.
There's nothing worse than
take it. Just take the note, and then we all move on. And if you need to talk about it later, talk about it later. Do not query the note in the room. It's boring for everyone else. It makes you feel like you're more important than everyone else in the room. Just take the note. Move on.
It can also kind of kill the vibe. This person's difficult to work with, and I know that can go into different areas depending on the feedback, but it's just like, thank you for that note. Actually goes so far, whether you like it or not as well.
Yes, chef.
Yes.
Just yes, chef it.
Yes, chef it. That's very interesting. And I want to go to your book. So a lot of the concepts and the way that you live your life is actually emulated in the book, or the other way around, however you want to say it. What made you actually want to write this book and get it out to the people?
Look, I was asked to write a book after writing an article in the paper after a couple of my friends had passed away during COVID. One had passed away, both had passed away due to cancer, which is just the worst. And I think everyone can relate to knowing someone close to them, or a friend or family member who's always been affected by cancer. And I wrote about the sort of grief, or the lack of grieving period, or the thing I didn't really know what to do. We weren't allowed to see people during COVID, and then when we did see people, I just got drunk and sort of hung out, but it just left me feeling more sad because I hadn't actually processed the grief.
Yep.
Which grief comes and goes, and it comes in waves, and it's something that you definitely need to address and need to talk about. And then I was like, what else are we talking about? This publisher reached out to me and said, do you want to talk more about this? And I said, yes, I'd love to talk more about sort of the identity of the Aussie man. I've always been sort of intrigued with identity in Australia itself, not knowing who we are as a country. We're a colonialist kind of hand-me-down who hasn't really worked out who they are. We went through a great period of sort of trying to work that out through the 70s and 80s, and then we've just become like America light, I suppose, which is gross, where we sell everything off and then we don't own anything. And anyway, that's a story for another time. But I was like, what is the identity of this Australian man who was, I think, easily identifiable probably back in the 60s and 70s as like the beach blonde Bondi surfer bloke, this Jackie Howe wearing sheep shearing guy.
Yep.
Like, who is he now? And the thing I found was he's many things. He's the accountant who wants to be a comedian. He's
interesting.
He's the footy loving, but also loves musical theatre. He's like, there are so many, like the amount of immigrants that we have in this country. Like, we are so diverse in this country, and we need to celebrate the awesomeness that is our melting pot of awesome cultures. And so I interviewed a bunch of people, psychologists, who else? A fair dinkum Aussie bloke who gets around in a big ute called Macca, who's an ex-military sniper.
Oh, wow.
Psychologists, the head of sort of male masculinity and male suicide at Melbourne Uni, Professor Jane Purkis, Dr. Pat McGorry, who headed up the Royal Commission into Mental Health. My friend Tommy Harkin, who also runs workshops for men called Tomorrow Man, which is excellent, sort of empowering young boys to confront their egos, I suppose, at a young age, and to look at their vulnerabilities and to really accept themselves for who they are. And to cool. I really found the whole process so enlightening. I learned so much. I walked past the fire station one day and started chatting to some firemen about who, if they think that they're good lovers, because they're always in calendars and stuff. Anyway, the chat soon moved towards their mental health program, their peer-to-peer service that they have, which I think is brilliant, that every single business in Australia should look at what they do in the fireys. That brought down their suicide rate over 10 years because of a peer-to-peer service. It's just incredible. Blokes who have actually gone through what they're going through can pick up on the things that they notice. If their friends or work colleagues can see it, they've got a phone number they can call this peer officer.
Learn this at school, and
it's brilliant,
mandatory.
So many things I learned. I really just wanted to shine the light on the people who are doing the work, and the people who have got a different perspective. I wanted to look at how do blokes fit in a post-Me Too world? How do they still be strong and stoic and also be vulnerable? How does that work? And how do we get there? And I think the thing I learned was it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah, that's all good things
to get there, and to rush it or to question blokes for not doing it now. It's like, well, we just don't know yet. So just help, put your hand up and say, I just need a bit of help, instead of pushing back. Learn.
I like that. It's a non-shame approach, which does not work without
shame. Doesn't work at all in anything. You're never going to change someone's mind by shaming them, ever, in any argument.
In fact, it'll probably pull you the other way.
Oh, mate, you see it now in any kind of news cycle. Yeah. We're pushing further to the left, further to the right, when really our hearts sit definitely more in the middle.
Everyone I've ever met is, I don't want to talk about politics, but everyone I've ever met is centre. Like, it's just like on the topic, but it's portrayed in a us versus them. We're all team human. That's my message of the podcast. I don't care if someone is ultra right, ultra left, left, right, middle. I'm neither. Oh, I'm all of them. I guess it depends. We're all team human, and that's also, I feel like with your book, whether intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter where you're at, we can all kind of get there together.
Yeah, we have far more things in common than we do not in common. So that is one thing to remember. Like the survey that I read of people all around the world, from from major cities to rural towns, they did this survey, and the things that we have in common are far more greater. Like we just shelter, food, like community. These are things that we should be focusing on. Like school, like do the bare minimum for the people around you. That's what we want. We've got far more things in common.
And 99.95% of people want the world to be a better place. They just go about it a different way to
correct.
where we. And if I was to judge someone like where I was 10 years ago, that's not fair because I've gone through growth to get to where I am now, and I'll change my opinions and views.
Yeah, don't judge, just help. Yeah,
that's amazing. I also feel like when you're writing a book like this, the amount of self-awareness that you would get of things that you potentially have done, and you know whether there are regrets or not, but just gaining this self-awareness of not only of what you've achieved, but how you've kind of become a inverted commas better human as well. That would be also quite rewarding.
Yeah, it was a really wonderful process. Working with Paul, especially on the bits that he said that I needed to dive deeper into, and whether it was my past or the interviews, and go a bit deeper into why each interview was more significant than the other, or why it resonated more with me, and the things that I definitely learnt from it. The aim for the book was there's a book I read during lockdown called Any Ordinary Day by the very talented Lee Sales, where she interviewed a bunch of people who had gone through incredibly traumatic experiences, like Stuart Diver. There's also Walter Mikau, who lost his family in the Port Arthur massacre. There's a bunch of people who've gone through traumatic experiences. It was her reflecting on the interviews that she did with these people. And so I kind of wanted that for my book. Is I wanted the reader to be learning along with me. So we're all learning together. So I don't know the answers, and maybe you don't either. So let's maybe work it out together. And maybe we come up with different opinions at the end of it. But this is just what I found. So that's kind of what I liked. There was a few things pushed back with the publisher on a few things. She's like, well, I don't think you should have this in the book. I was like, well, I think you need to have it in there because it exists in the world, and I'd rather the audience read it and make up their own mind. They can disagree or agree or just be nonchalant about it. But if you don't put it in, you're not giving them a chance to realize that it even exists. So
that's, great. Bringing awareness is the most important thing.
Yeah, let the people make up their own mind. Like, challenge their algorithm maybe.
I love that. Yeah. So how do people listen and buy the book?
You can get it from any good bookstore, probably some bad ones as well. No, there are no bad. I take that away. There are no bad bookstores. When did you say bad bookstores? You can also get it online. It's like you can get it on your Kindle, or you can get it as an audiobook as well.
Yep, amazing. What we're going to do now to wrap up the podcast is to do a quick rapid fire segment.
Great. I'm in.
So the first thing that springs to mind. What has been your special ingredient to work all these years?
Sponge-like and kindness. Enjoy. Try to find some joy.
I love them, and I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm not going to comment on them because I derail them, and then it'll be another 10 hours.
Okay.
So that was a great answer, and I assume all of them are going to be brilliant. Okay. Favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Bushwalk.
Oh, are you still involved? I know Asher Packman was spoken about in your book. So do you still do the men's circles?
I haven't done it for a while, but my mate Josh Pitterman has been talking about doing one while I'm here in Melbourne. But excuse me, I haven't done one for a while, but I thoroughly enjoyed it whilst researching the book. It was an incredible experience, and I recommend everyone does it, even if it's just for once.
Very nice. I did one with Asher, and
what a guy.
He is remarkable, and there was a man I met, James Greenshield. I don't know if you ever met him, but I think he's good friends with Asher. He's been on the podcast, and it changed my worldview of also what a man. This was an army. He's been on the podcast, so people can check it out. But I think he was very high up in the army, and he had a lot of, his words are maybe aggressive issues, and he got hit by a roadside bomb, and that changed his life, and now he's on the path to helping like young men be men.
Kinda.
It's brilliant. And yeah, Asher's a good guy as well.
Very good guy.
If you could gain any skill in the world, which one would it be?
I got to get better at guitar. But if I could just gain it like the Matrix and just like, whoa,
Yeah, plug it in.
whoa, kung fu.
Yeah, that's a great reference.
I think, guitar.
I know Kung Fu.
I know kung fu.
I know that you hosted a show and it was cancelled. What did you learn about that experience?
I think I learnt that the industry itself is fickle, and it's just a gig. Don't take it personally. It works or it doesn't work. One thing might work, and then it finishes, and then all right, what next? I think it's learn from learn from the mistakes that you've made. Learn from the mistakes maybe of the show itself. I don't know, and how next time you can avoid those same mistakes by putting your hand up and maybe suggesting other things.
Very nice. I said I wouldn't comment. If money wasn't a factor, what would you be doing differently, if at all?
Oh, I'd still be doing the same thing. I'd love it. Love performing. Finding ways to connect more people with music and art and storytelling. Yeah, and trying to. Yeah, I think that's a really super important thing to do for children. To know that they. Know the importance of creativity and art and what that can do to inform your world.
I agree, and someone who never had it, I wish I did, because it has changed my worldview and hopefully made me a better person. Have I asked this one? What are you most proud of?
I don't know. That's always a weird one for me. I'm kind of just proud that I'm still working in the industry. Like after like not working, like I'm pretty proud that I'm still here. You know, and I have a good reputation and integrity in my work and my work ethic. I think I'm proud of that.
I am as well.
Yeah.
Next big dream or goal?
It's just to work out what I'm going to do after July. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
At the end of the show?
Yeah.
Yep.
Finish Juliet in Sydney. It's the last time that people can come and see it. So definitely come and see it in Sydney. After that, I don't know. I've got a few ideas, whether it's auditions or, at this stage, I'm just really enjoying this part of my life.
What was the highlight of being on Neighbours?
Oh, having an entire 5-night up late version of Neighbours written basically for my character, where I got to take out Toadie, put him on a boat and send him off to sea. I get to kill someone with a bow and arrow. I get to kidnap Susan and a baby, finishing in a watery grave. I finished peak soap as far as just being a part of the show was amazing, but having them write a Finn's Crazy Island Neighbours Endgame for my character was just a real honour.
You were in a lot of episodes, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on for a couple of years on and off, and then I came back for a 1-year sort of storyline arc full time, and it culminated in that sort of Neighbours Endgame finish, and it was huge. It got me I won the best actor at the TV Soap Awards in the UK.
Oh, only because it's huge in the UK,
which is pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Would you try and get involved in the spin-off Neighbours? I believe they're doing.
It's back. No, my character's dead. I've already.
They bring up.
I've already been back twice as a ghost. So I went back for the finale, which was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, to go back as a ghost, and even just to sort of have a little feature spot in that, I feel very grateful and very lucky to have been a part of that. I don't know, because they think the character was a special kind of character for the show. I was really chuffed.
That's awesome. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Just do it. You're just going to suck for a bit, and just embrace the fact that you're going to suck for a little while. Trust me, it gets easier. The more you do it, the more I practice, the luckier I got.
Agreed. That's amazing. And before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you, what is the one question I should have asked you?
Oh, no, they're all pretty good. How about that?
Thank you.
No, I have no extra questions. That's fine.
Awesome. And how can
what's my favourite football team? It's the Hawthorn Hawks. Go Hawks.
And did you go for them when they won their three-peat?
Absolutely. Of course it is.
That's my first question.
From a small child, I love the Hawks.
Oh, very nice.
And you can find me at Rob Millsy Mills or robmills.net.au.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm so old, I've got a website.
I've also got one. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
I love Rob's philosophy on take the note. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with feedback or using aspects of the feedback if it doesn't resonate with you. The concept is more take on the feedback and see how you can learn, grow, and improve from it. Genuinely speaking, the note or feedback is designed to help you see the situation in a new light. By taking on the note or hearing it when it is delivered, you're also signaling to your team, boss, etc. that you are in fact easy to work with and you are able to hear what they are saying, which is crucial to a strong relationship. In fact, it will most likely lead to better collaboration in the future. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. The difference between feedback and criticism is how you take it. Anonymous. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.